Anyway, we should talk about Kramer versus Kramer. This was a 1979 film based on the 1977 novel written by Avery Corman, directed by Robert Benton. It has a very fascinating background with who was attached and when. On the same day, Manhattan advertising executive Ted Kramer lands the biggest account of his career. He learns that his wife, Joanna, is leaving him and their young son, Billy. End of sentence.
Joe, you're going to be real proud of me.
I'm leaving you.
Was this some kind of joke?
Forced to raise his son alone, Ted loses his job but gains a stronger relationship with the child with the help of another single parent, Margaret. When Joanna returns to claim custody of Billy, the ensuing court battle takes a toll on everyone concerned. This was, if you didn't know, I actually didn't know this, it was a huge Oscar success. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Screenplay. It's what I was gonna say was that it's a case of if I had been like watching the Oscars in 1979, I would have been fucking annoyed at Kramer versus Kramer because even the movies that I love that sweep the Oscars, it gets a little annoying after a while, especially when the big competitor was All That Jazz, which lost basically everything except for the tech categories, I guess. It won best sound and best music and all of course, because it's All That Jazz. I don't know, man. If it's between Dustin Hoffman and Roy Scheider, I would have gone All That Jazz any day. Apocalypse Now, yes, that was also there. I'm just All That Jazz is kind of one of my babies, and I would have been rooting for that this year. Let's just look at this. Yes, the other nominees: All That Jazz, Apocalypse Now, Breaking Away, which I haven't seen, and Norma Ray. It was a good year. And that said, it's damn, Kramer, all those, fucking Apocalypse Now drops, and, you hear about the making of that movie, and it's hell. And then they're no, let's give it to Kramer versus Kramer. Which is fine. It's a good movie, but it wouldn't have been my first pick. It has an interesting history with casting. It was written for Dustin Hoffman, but he was not interested as he was going through a divorce himself at the time, and just wasn't very interested in the film. They also pitched it to James Caan, Al Pacino, and Jon Voight, all of whom were considered, all of whom declined. I'm pretty sure Al Pacino said he thought it was going to be a flop, which is why. And that's funny because when I was watching this, I was I can see Al Pacino in this role. But, and so it's funny that they pitched it to him. Long story short, they ended up convincing Dustin Hoffman to do it, and he signs on. It's an interesting film for Dustin Hoffman. We'll get to that in a second. Kind of a similar thing happened with the lead actress. They pitched it to Kate Jackson, Jane Fonda, and Faye Dunaway, all of whom declined for different reasons. Meryl Streep was going to originally play Margaret, I'm pretty sure. She ended up being casted as the lead. Both actresses, Meryl Streep and Jane Alexander, were both nominated. And Justin Henry was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. It got literally everything it could have been nominated for, which is crazy. Notably, it was the first, we're still talking about Oscars just because it kind of plays into the movie. It's the first film that Dustin Hoffman won Best Actor for. He would later also win for Rain Man. A bit crazy. It kind of feels like not too long overdue, but knowing how active he was in the 70s, it's this is kind of yeah, we should give it to him, which is funny considering he didn't want to do it at first. But also, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this. Who does Justin Henry play? The kid. Fantastic child performance, by the way. We'll get to that in a second. Right now, though, I want to talk about the Hoffman controversies. It came out in a Times interview that Meryl Streep said he was extremely aggressive on set. They butted heads quite a bit. He threw a wine glass at the wall without telling her. She accused him of groping her breasts at one point. And then in 2018, she came out and said he slapped her in the first take of the film. Their first take, he slapped her without, saying he was going to do that, which is obviously a step too far, to put it lightly. It was very just odd, aggressive, kind of, beyond inappropriate behavior, and definitely makes you see this film. I learned about this literally an hour ago. I did not know this when I watched it, but definitely paints it in a poor light. Choosing to go method for this after also experiencing your own divorce shortly before. I mean, there's a lot to unpack about where a lot of Hoffman's rage in this film is coming from. It's not entirely fictional. So it's just a bit of a disappointing backstory considering, it's a great performance, but it maybe comes off so realistic and so natural and so scary because it's coming from a very real place. And it's very sad that it's one of Meryl Streep's earlier roles. It was apparently a very negative experience. That said, Meryl Streep also incredible in this movie. I mean, she's kind of, it's a case of I wish we got more Meryl Streep. And this just boils down to like guy wishes he got a different movie than what he got. But I'm like, I do wish there was more being said about like her position in this and like what happens to her while this is all happening, because I don't know. I think that's a really interesting thing that makes Marriage Story such a fascinating film, is like so much of how these characters feel about one another is off of what they don't know and like what you don't see and the assumptions that come up. And because we don't see a whole lot of Meryl Streep's character in this, I personally don't, but like it almost reads like the film kind of wants to like villainize her at a certain point, because it's like she kind of comes in and disrupts what is turning out to be a good thing. I thought she was such a fascinating character who makes a really crazy decision that we really don't like get to unpack as much as I want to, outside of like the actual legal case of it. Really, really interesting backstory that led to two really great performances. And also Justin Henry, yes. He's fantastic. It's got to be one of my favorite child performances of all time. He has to be good, basically, for this to work, because it's like he's such an important part of it in a way that I really didn't expect him to be. But like when he's like crying for his mom, it just reads so real in a way that was like really upsetting. I was like, that's so like that was me, man. Like I would just like break down in these, and it just got so sad to picture that like his comfort, his like, I was gonna say comfort character, but his mother, like you could feel like the absence and the loneliness and just like how trapped he feels being with this guy. And Dustin Hoffman, he's just got a real unenjoyable vibe. He's just got a rancid vibe about him in this that I'm like, yeah, I just feel for the kid. But that said, when they need to share a scene and have chemistry, they do. Like I did read that they did a lot of work together to like nail this bond, which is so believable on set. I mean in the film. It's so you totally see it. I mean, yeah, there's so many standout scenes, like the ice cream one, obviously. The ice cream one is crazy. I would say would you agree that's probably the most iconic scene from this film? Like that's the real standout, because it plays with your emotions and makes you think. Like it's a little scary at first, and then like the way he's like kind of teasing eating the ice cream, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of funny for like a second, and then he just snaps, and it's scary. The court scene is definitely the most, yeah, that you're right. Or the French toast one, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people talking about the ice cream one. Anyway, the ice cream one is probably my favorite scene, just because it captured that like really flips on a dime kind of situation. The screenplay for this, I would say, is probably the highlight besides the performances. I really admire how simple this is. It's like a deceptively, like it's very like it is what it is, and it doesn't try to like overcomplicate things or over dramatize any moments specifically. Like it is dramatic, and it does make for a really great movie, but it kind of just plays out very naturally in a way that's almost documentary like, and you get some like real ugly and odd things in the process. There's a moment specifically that I thought was very bizarre, and I'm surprised people haven't talked about it more. He has this woman over, and she walks out nude, and then the kid sees her nude, and they stand in the hallway for way too long. This is a thing. This is an awkward, uncomfortable situation that's like probably happened to so many people. But it's like seeing it play out on screen and for so long, I was just like, go in the other room. Like, don't put some clothes on. Why are you having this full conversation? Yeah, it made it like realer for me for some reason. I'm just like, what is she doing? Like, I did want to bring up, it's shot by it's shot by this filmmaker, or this DP, who is known for shooting like Romer and Truffaut movies. He's like a French cinematographer. And Truffaut was actually going to direct this, funny enough, but turned it down. But like you kind of feel that in the cinematography. It's a very like, it's unassuming in how it's shot. Like you don't consider it like the most like, I hate this word, but like cinematic movie. Certainly not as much as Apocalypse Now, which came out the same year, but like it's still very pretty. There's a shot near the end where the kid, he like gets on Dustin Hoffman's shoulders and they're like walking away and there's all this light pouring through the park. Nestor Almendros. Yes. He shot Days of Heaven too. Like just a really like delicately shot movie. Like the lighting is so soft and subtle. Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was beautiful. That was an aspect that I really love that obviously people aren't going to like bring up for a movie like this. On the topic of divorce movies, I'm curious, where does this rank for a lot of people in divorce films? Is this anybody's favorite divorce film? Because I guess when I think of like films of this kind, I'm leaving out Possession for the sake of this, because Possession is not it's not the kind of divorce film I'm talking about. I think of this, Marriage Story, Scenes from a Marriage, fucking, I guess Squid and the Whale. It's definitely like one of the most iconic. Divorce films just go so hard, man. Yeah, that's the thing. I also really dig Scenes from a Marriage. I guess between Scenes from a Marriage and Marriage Story and Blue Valentine kind of playing with time and different eras. Dude, The Fabelmans is kind of a crazy pull. I'm very used to these movies like getting really crazy with it. And going like they need to like play with time and they need to like bring, and a lot of these, this is not me saying these movies are bad, but they feel a need to bring some greater meaning to this horrible thing that happens to a lot of people. And what I like about Kramer versus Kramer is there's something just very quaint and simple and frustrating and stupid about it, in how it doesn't really overcomplicate it. And it just says, like, this is what it is, and this is what I've been missing. Like, this is a part of my life that I have not tapped into in a long time, that has been in front of me this whole time. Like, that's what's crazy. I'm like, it really reads like he's meeting this child for the first time. I'm like, and they have to build from the ground up. I'm like, the kid's not a baby. Like, he's been around. Which, I don't know, it's just stuff like that I really love about it. Like, I love its simplicity. Yeah, I guess as you know, I gave this a 4 and a 5, or 4 and a 5, a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I was kind of for a while expecting it to be a home run. I was kind of like, there's nothing wrong with this movie, and there really isn't that much wrong. It is just, all of that said, I wanted more Meryl Streep. I think, you know, there's something there that I think it feels like this huge piece that's missing. That I know it's like, it's all about him and his son, but her like I said at the top of this, her choice to leave, the son specifically, was crazy to me. And I really do think it like paints it in a way that you do start to root for one side over the other, even though it's made clear that like Dustin Hoffman's character is this incredibly, like, I don't know, unstable man. I guess I just wanted a bit more balance out of my divorce films, because that's like something I do really love. Yes, I think what this like has over other divorce movies that I've seen, if it does anything exceptionally well, it's that it focuses on the kid to such a degree that it's like, I would call this Kramer and Kramer, not Kramer versus Kramer. It's him in a new Kramer, you know? Little Kramers. Would you call Paris, Texas a divorce movie? It's not what I guess I would call it more of a road movie, right? Like, I think that I would classify it more as that than a divorce movie. I also thought that Hoffman's monologue to Billy about why his mom left was one of the highlights for me. That stuff is what broke me, man. Like, have you guys ever seen I don't want to get too personal here, but it's like, have you ever seen your parents cry? Because that moment kind of like, there's just like multiple things happening at once in this movie. And it's like a kid who's growing up very suddenly, way too quickly. And then there's like a parent who has to like, and then the kid is like learning that their parents aren't these like indestructible figures. And that's like, it's, I don't know, people call it a tragic movie. And it is, because like this, you know, no one should have to grow up this quickly like this. No one, and in such a cruel way. But like, I don't know, it's really like beautiful capturing that on screen in such an authentic way. It hit a little too close to home every now and then. And again, I'm not a child of divorce, so it's like, who am I to say? But I'm just like, it taps into the human experience. I'm realizing I got not that much to say about this movie. I've kind of exhausted my thoughts. There's like, I mean, there's a lot of interesting backstory here, But honestly, it like I said, it is very much it is what it is thing. And there's something very cathartic about that. Something very, comforting about seeing something like this on screen and feeling less alone in that. And I think it's a success by all means. I think there's places where it could really, use a bit more meat on its bones that would really elevate it. But also, I kind of just appreciate the simple approach it takes. There's something really nice about a divorce movie that acknowledges how it ain't that complicated. And it can quickly become very complicated, as you see through, the legal side of it. Kind of like, textbook divorce film. If you're looking to dive into divorce cinema, you got to start with Kramer versus Kramer.